Great. So welcome to office hours. The main thing on my mind is a proposal to hold a special meeting. I've got some slides I can walk through. They mostly say, please share your thoughts. And there's a few of mine. Let me open up the chat doodad here in, where's the chat doodad? There it is. What does anyone else want?
Yeah, I just thought I would, and maybe this goes into your, I don't know if someone else was talking. Was anyone else talking? Okay, so what I was going to suggest is just to convey early, and I'll say it verbally here, is our intention is that there's a lot of good things happening around RChain, and we want, at least I'll speak for myself, is I want to see those good things continue. Now, people agree what's good and bad, but there is a lot of good here.
Right. Yeah, so my reason for stepping up to offer to chair a meeting is that the discussion in Discord can get kind of nasty and people griping and stuff like that, and there's plenty of sentiment to say let's stop X from happening ever again, but we need sentiment and offers to participate in making good things happen, like you said. So that's what I want to facilitate, is a discussion where people get to air a certain amount of grievances, but we want to talk a lot about, so what are we going to do about it? I'm just going to pause to hear from others for a minute here. A lot of people have muted themselves, but the chat line is open. I'm going to flip through these slides just for the fun of it. So this is a Google slide presentation. Oh, that's I've got a new puppy. Hello, good morning, Mojo. All right. There's also a GitHub version of things for people where that's easier. So for example, Git is peer-to-peer, and so if you can't access Google's facilities because you're in some weird network, or you're in some, anyway, Git is completely peer-to-peer, so I'm making sure that materials are available that way too. Good morning. Weird network. I think you know what weird network I'm talking about. It's weird from the US perspective. It's probably normal from your perspective. Okay, so everybody please share your thoughts. There's the members and governance channels in particular. Endorse the proposal here in the governance channel. The membership numbers, something like 951. Ian gave us a semi-official count a little while ago, which makes 10% of the membership is 95 or 96. I think it's reasonably clear we're going to get there. You can join my office hours, which you've done. Welcome, everybody. You can make comments on this slide deck, which a few people have done. Good morning again, Mojo. Hold on. Oh, let's see. If I do this. Mojo says hi. Okay. All right. All right. That thing blacks me out on the video. Let me do that again. All right. Mojo says hi. You can raise an issue in the SM1988 GitHub. You can go here and raise an issue too. That would be a good way to start a kind of an item of business kind of thing. You could start collaborating with people on it. All right, so I'm offering to chair. This is no longer a question now that we've got 70 whatever votes. I have decades of experience running effective meetings. I'll show you the decades of experience thing. This is when I moved on from the world. I worked at the Web Consortium. I started working on the web project in '91, but I wasn't on staff of the Web Consortium until '93. But anyway, so these were the things that people said about, a lot of people learn from working with me and stuff. You're invited to review that. That's kind of my resume for collaboration and stuff. And what I learned about running meetings there is I should ensure participants are heard, make good use of time, and ensure good records with clear follow-up. Did Harpo Marx join the call? Is it really Dan's puppy? Oh, the honking, yes. She's got a squeaky toy. All right. Okay, now you're eating my hand. That's not welcome. You have to run along now. Get your squeaky toy. Here. There you go. Okay, or this one. Alligator toy. All right. I'm an RChain community participant since November 2017. I've made various technical contributions. I have a little bit of core commits to the core code. I went and looked that up. Turns out I've made 84 commits, which is kind of wild. Rolling Scala proto documents. Object capabilities is my main thing as far as technical stuff. I'm a formal systems wannabe. I made a presentation at a couple of the conferences. I help with this RChain API JavaScript thingy, and I run my Saturday office hours. Everybody's here. And I'm open to many outcomes from a membership meeting. I don't have any particular position that I'm going to be championing here. Welcome to my office hours. This session is recorded in case that wasn't clear from your Zoom client. If you want to say something off the record, you can ask that, and maybe we will pause the recording. So this is sort of my offer to chair. Does anybody have any? Should I just go to the next slide? Okay, so studying the bylaws, it says, upon submission of a petition signed by 10% of the membership, I think lots of people have heard of the 10% of the membership part, to call a special meeting with one or more specific matters for a vote, the RChain board will schedule a meeting, blah, 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 blah. And so I had to have one specific item, and otherwise if everybody gives a thumbs up for nothing, then I can't really compel the board to do anything, whatever. Anyway, so my motion is to thank Barry, Mark, and Kevin for their service. That's the one specific matter that will be on the agenda. Now, that, of course, raises the question, they've resigned, which raises the possibility of filling their slots. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Oh, right. So I read the bylaws, and it looks like to elect board members, there's a process that's like 60 days long. And I'd rather not schedule the meeting more than 60 days away. I think it should be within the next month, probably. So it's not clear that we can make, binding decisions to elect boards and people to the board of directors, or any other kind of binding decision, frankly. given the constraints in the bylaws. I aim to facilitate a discussion where people are heard, and clear proposals with backing from dozens of members, including offers to participate, should be enough to start useful things moving. So, for example, we could say, we, the 75 undersigned members, really think that Fred and Sue ought to be on the board. And then the board would be a little bit silly to not appoint them. Does that make sense to anyone?
Yes.
Yeah, and then on that specific issue, probably everyone's aware, but interim board members can be appointed by the board now to serve out until the members' meeting in October.
That's correct.
And so it may, and I'm not sure what the sentiment of the board is. I know that earlier in the week, Ian was talking about trying to convene an emergency meeting, mainly, I think, for the purpose to become clear on more of the facts related to what happened in Spain. But the next board meeting, not if Ian gets a emergency meeting together, is in about 10 days. It's May 7. So anyway, just want to speak to that process and the timeline, because that maybe suggesting board members might be a good piece of business, but then it should probably fall in before May 7.
Rich, are you saying that Ian is planning on putting an emergency board meeting or emergency member meeting?
Board meeting.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, he was on a call Wednesday morning, and that was his intention that he was expressing at that time. And I haven't heard whether that's gone forward.
I think Greg addressed anybody's concerns about that and went over it in detail in the meeting yesterday, the closed meeting yesterday. I don't know how.
Well, in detail, I haven't heard any details. Which was the escrow company?
I don't know that anyone asked that question.
Okay.
Well, so Jim, just frankly, the reason we're all here and at this point is because a lot of people don't believe everything Greg says. And so there are unanswered questions. There's a lot of dissatisfaction in where is the truth in various topics.
So on the topic of possible board seats, does anybody want to say, I'm interested in serving on the board at this opportunity? Or I think Bob or Sue should serve on the board?
I think Nick Maines would be good to be in board conversations.
Who is that speaking, please?
Yeah, hi, this is Rich.
Oh, hi, Rich.
People have asked me, and I'd be willing to consider. I would have to. I don't have time to volunteer, but I would. Compensation would be an issue for me, so I need to be upfront about that. If anyone's interested in pursuing it with me, just modest, but I can't. I would put a lot of time in. I'd go full time because I think that. I think that I think that the co-op has benefited terrifically from the board members that have been active in the conversation space. And I think the general tendency of management, I've heard this explicitly expressed from the RChain team, the feeling that the cooperative culture somehow stands in opposition to a kind of dynamism that business requires. I just don't buy it. I think that's a easy out for being fairly unprofessional and undisciplined in one's business. And a lot of people are here because it's a co-op culture. I understand the tension. I'm not going to say that I don't get, how process can be frustrating sometimes, but but we are organized as a co-op, and a lot of people are here as a co-op. A lot of people believe co-ops offer a better design element, properly designed perhaps, and that might be our issue, is what do we need to do to design this structure better so that the talents that some of these remarkable members have, including Greg, can be better accessed for the benefit of the whole collective and as it grows. So anyway, that's my response to that question.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you for putting your name as a potential candidate. I think one of the issues has been historically that the co-op has asked too much of board members in terms of time, and there's a corollary to that, which is that there aren't enough officers or the right officers historically. To my knowledge, there's still no appointed treasurer, for example. Ravi is just coming up to speed as COO, and so traditionally the role of a board is to provide occasional course correction, monthly or quarterly. But this has required a much more hands-on operational board. And if we take several of the board members who have left, just strictly at their written word, is that it's too time-consuming. I believe that's true. I think there could have been other reasons why people have left as well. But I think what's needed even more than board members is more active officers.
Yeah, so Rich, I think the role you described, whether it's on the board or otherwise, is interesting.
You're on mute, Rich.
Oops.
I have the opportunity and I'm committed to the mission. I have terrific respect for Greg's vision. When we've gone one-on-one over our various disagreements, I've said, my purpose in my conversation is to support your work. I want to see his work be realized. And at this time, I want to depersonalize all of our conversations as much as possible, because I do think, I think there's weakness in the structure. I did run Sub Pop Records during its ascendancy and take it from a failing business to a business that's, known around the world now. And I just instinctually never wanted to be writing the checks that I was spending. So there's just certain things where what I want to say is that the structure that allows for the executive to hold, in this corporation, to hold all the powers. I don't necessarily. I can't see in bylaws or it's possible there may be some issues with some text about his behavior in Spain, but the structure wasn't there to explicitly require a separation of duties, which is a structural problem as much as it's a question of an individual's behavior.
Right.
Yeah. From the facts I know, I agree with you, Rich. And historically, the various decisions that Greg has made, although some have not been popular, I haven't seen that he's exceeded his executive power. Now, the board has always had the opportunity to pass resolutions to limit those. The so-called banking resolution type of activity is really to say, the treasurer and this procedure affects how money is spent. The executive can spend up to, or an officer can spend up to X dollars. Above that requires board approval or whatever. So those have always been available to the board to pass. And I think, and I've made specific suggestions along those lines to board members in the past. And I think that's part of navigating out of this, is for the board to, shore up the responsibility, or the talent in the other officers or appointees, and to put some procedures in place so that the community and rock holders are reassured that history won't repeat itself with respect to one person's judgment as opposed to a collective judgment.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain amount we can do with process and stuff, but the biggest thing I can see to cause things to happen differently is for people to behave, other people to say, okay, I will run the treasury, for example, or I will, that's what I'm looking for. I'm hoping people will, including offers to participate. So the coolest thing I've heard from Rich is an offers to participate.
Thank you. I think one thing that needs to be made clear, and I don't know if anyone wants to, from the current board, would step up and say this, but I believe they have a fiduciary duty that has kind of shifted from the will of the members to actually assuring that creditors don't lose money. So
can we leave that aside for a little bit?
Okay, I just wanted to state it. I won't go deeper into it, but
yeah, it's anybody who's interested in that, we can come back to it.
Fair enough.
Okay. I'm going to go around the table just a little bit. I'm going to go start from the bottom. This person with a few kind of Chinese characters in iPhone, can you either like write into the chat that you're not interested to say anything, or just say hello and what interests you here? Okay, I guess I'll take that as a pass. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. This next person with 4 Chinese characters. Would anybody care to say that name for me? Oh, you've unmuted.
Okay, 守望雨夜, I'm gonna talk to him in Chinese. 守望雨夜, 你的那个静音能不能打开?
Thank you. Does anybody want to translate that?
No, sorry. I was saying to the 4 Chinese characters name that he should mute his phone. I'm not sure he hear me.
I can hear you. It's a little bit soft. Oh, you were speaking in Chinese to that person. I see. Thank you.
Thank you for translating, Enzo.
Okay. Okay, I'll go to the next person. It looks like Wei Fan. Do you have anything to say this morning, or whatever time it is where you are? Okay, you've muted, so perhaps you'd like to type something to the chat or something. In any case, you're more than welcome. Person calling yourself Sunday, hello. Gonna move on. STRK, Stirk or something? All right, just here to listen, I suppose. Good morning, Steve Henley. Anything to add?
Hello, everybody. I don't have anything specific to say, but just sort of recognizing we have 21 participants on the call, which I think is the most we've ever had on Dan's Saturday office hours. So that's tremendous. I'm glad to see all the participation.
Likewise. All right, we heard from Rich a little bit. Maybe we'll come back to him. Someone maybe named Kenyon. All right. Jakob, is that how you say your name?
Oh, I'm Jacob.
Jacob.
Yeah, but if you wanted to say it the Polish way, it'd be Jakub, so that works. Yeah, I do have a couple of things to say. So I got involved in RChain through the validator program, and I'm very much an open source enthusiast. After I joined the validator program in late summer, I put some money in, got my company involved, and had I known that I was inadvertently funding closed source software through the immersion deal, I never would have gotten involved. I would have had nothing to do with this. I don't like the idea that there's an NDA that I would have to sign to see the terms of a deal that my company helped fund. And this Spanish situation is also not real good. In terms of things that we could actually do about this, in the members chat, we've seen suggestions from both Mao and Mutineering, Nick, Rich, what's Nick's last name? Nick Maines, is that right?
That's correct, Nick Maines.
Okay, and Nick Maines, and whereas Mutineering kind of just produced a few whereas Mao kind of just produced a few bullet points, Nick made a very detailed presentation on, how he might try to address issues at the co-op. I thought it was fantastic. Both of them included dropping our song, which that's pretty important to me because I want to get things back out in the open. It distresses me a great deal that there are things that co-op members currently cannot know, like rank and file co-op members, such as myself, who maybe do not wish to sign an NDA to continue participating in the open source project that they joined. That does not happen in open source projects. We are now something else. The software is open source, but I can't say that the RChain co-op at this point is a very open organization because we sign secret deals and or run off to Spain with $500,000 in tokens. And so, yeah, I definitely support Nick Maines. And I also want to say, even though, and I wish to be clear, I have tried to be highly critical because I'm really distressed with a lot of the things that I have seen occur. There's value in the technology being built. I also recognize Greg's role in building it. I don't think that these things would exist without his insight into distributed systems design and concurrency. And my personal hope is that he can kind of step back from the financial helm of things. It doesn't seem like he's real good at it, but there are other things that directly pertain to RChain that, quite frankly, he's extremely good at. And I really hope that we can retain him on that. And so, like, as much as I want to be quite vocal in my criticism of Greg on, say, specifically our song and Spain, right? I also want to be supportive of his work on the technical platform. It's unique. Not everybody thinks like that. And that's kind of my bit.
Thanks.
Sure.
Icy Westbrook, welcome. Hi, anything to add? I see you said hi in the chat. Okay, welcome. We have Kenyan iPhone. Anything to add? Did I already? Oh, I already asked you. Okay, we have Huawei P20. Okay, Henry.
This is Harry. So, also from China, and I invest most of my invest on the blockchain is on RChain. So I want to see follow up how to fix the financial issue and continue our RChain. And we our Chinese community is very active to support any solution which can fix the financial issue. And thanks, Dan.
Likewise, thank you. Okay, Henry. All right, Gary Coulter, welcome.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I'm here to support the efforts of this meeting. We've had 3 meetings, and or this is the 3rd meeting in a few days about this subject. All have touched on the possibility of a special meeting, and I think it's necessary that we have a special meeting now. These closed meetings are problematic. I'm a fan of open source. I think Greg is a fan of open source too. Even in the early days, we challenged him on efforts to try to close things off, and he was very understanding about it. But we've now moved into a new phase. Closed meetings do have utility, but we're moving into a new area. Let's see, I took some notes here. Hold on just a second. Yeah, the one thing that I think the consensus everybody says is Greg is essential. We can't. I think there are very few people that feel we can complete the project without Greg in his role as the technical guru. I don't think anybody else has the complete vision. I think it's odd that we got this far without having Greg's complete vision. Again, I support the closed meeting. I think there are some people here that should consider running for the board positions, and in the meetings of the members meeting on Wednesday and the governance meeting on Thursday. Yeah, I believe that was Thursday. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I love the sound of that terminal.
Okay. Okay, just a reminder, I don't plan to preserve the Zoom chat for the record. There are people that are maybe talking about decisions the co-op should make. I'll just remind everybody that you're more than welcome to raise an issue here or make a comment on the slides, or, in the governance channel or members or whatever. Okay.
Where
And
do
I
we find
was
the
going
link to
through here. It was Gary. Enzo? Oh, who was speaking?
I was asking where we find the link to the slides.
Here's the link to the slides. That, it's got, shorter URL is this one, which links to the slides and stuff, meeting slides and the proposal and stuff like that. All right, that was Gary. Enzo, welcome.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Hello. I just realized SM stands for special meeting.
Yes.
So what does 19A stands for?
Basically 2019 April. SM19A is one of the lessons I've learned, that if you give something a name, if I had called this, for example, special meeting to elect board members, and then I had realized that we can't actually elect board members due to the 60-day constraint in the board, then my URL would have been kind of a misnomer. So what I use is kind of short nonsense words for URLs a lot of times.
Okay, I see. Well, I just saw Ed said in the chat window that he agrees that Greg's role in technical and visionary leadership should continue, but not operational execution, not contractual obligations, not treasury. That's basically what I agree. I think we should, how to say, we should discuss, or we should vote on in the coming special meeting. So, but actually, the RChain Co-op has never really had a special meeting, as far as I know. I'm not sure how can we really. I mean, in last November, yeah. I think some of you should have seen that I proposed. I didn't propose a special meeting, but proposed a petition on the removal of Greg Meredith as the president of RChain Co-op. And even we have, like, I think the last time I checked, it was 165 or 160 thumbs up. I believe most of those thumb ups are from members. I mean, KYC members. Yeah, I actually counted like twice, and I think like 80% of them are KYC members. But if, according to the bylaws, if you want to have a special meeting, you need to contact the secretary of the co-op. At that time, that was Evan Jensen, and maybe you all know it's very hard to contact him. So and at that time there was also a discrepancy of the definition of membership of RChain Co-op, and also there's I think that's a bug, or that's a, how to say this, from what I see, that's a bug for in the quorum requirement of special meeting, because that was 50%, at least 50% of the whole membership, which was at least 400 or 500 people, and that was, so that's practically impossible to really make something how to say, meaningful if we do everything by the bylaws. But since what has happened during the last few weeks, and Barry just resigned, and Mark resigned, and earlier Kevin resigned, and then what has happened in Spain. So all these stuff. Well, I think this could be the last attempt to save RChain, or to you know, to save it. So if there's only one proposal or item of business I want to propose and get voted on in the special meeting, that's get yeah, I agree that Greg is essential to RChain, but he is really not suitable for being the president, especially for business, for treasury, for even for recruitment. Yes, that's. I think that's what I want to say.
I hear you. So I trust you will follow up on that through I don't know if you want to start a GitHub issue or just chat or just say your piece here. This session is recorded. So that I hear you. All right.
Yeah, I think another thing is we have the bylaw, but if the management or staff doesn't follow the bylaw, don't follow the rule. For example, they do the deal without the approval by the board, but there's no any things happen to the president. So what the value for the bylaw? And I think we need some action or some rule for that things if anybody to break the bylaw.
I hear you. Right. So I'm just going to repeat something as far as what I think I'm able to achieve. So if someone wanted to try to make, a binding decision to remove one of the officers, maybe the president, I don't know that I can achieve that in a special meeting because of the constraints of the bylaws, et cetera. Maybe it's possible. I'm not sure. I'm here to facilitate a discussion where people are heard. And I think clear proposals with backing of dozens of members, including offers to participate, should be enough to start useful things moving. So fine points of procedure, I think that they produce more sort of heat than light. So we'll see how it all comes together. There are times when, there have to be rules and you use the rules to do things that people don't like and things like that. But that's very uncomfortable and it's not what I hope to spend my effort on. Ed, I wonder if you think it's okay for me to skip you since you got a lot of airtime earlier.
Yeah, feel free.
All right.
I would like to hear from Ed. I mean, he's had some good suggestions which we didn't cover here.
Oh, I'm happy to elaborate on any of those.
I think
the one thing I just I'm reviewing our articles of incorporation because there was a question about bylaws and a lot of this and potentially changing the bylaws at some time. So the ability to change bylaws is spelled out in the articles of incorporation and Washington state law. It's not very clear how that's done. Even with it being written, it says that it requires a 25% of the membership at a special meeting, and the concept of a special meeting is in the Washington state law, kind of what it takes to put together a special meeting, and those kinds of things typically can't be, removed from, in this case, the co-op members or the shareholders. Anyway, I think these are much longer term considerations, and the changes that are needed to keep the co-op surviving over time are needed to be made by the board ultimately, or board and president. This member meeting could result in referendums to the board, but they would be non-binding, and the board would have to take action, I believe, in this short term. And when I say short term, I'm thinking, within a month, this has to happen. So Dan, anything in particular you wanted me to elaborate on?
It was Jim who asked you to elaborate.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
Well, I guess I could cover the thing. One good suggestion that I don't know get addressed would be to have a moderator for board meetings that's not Greg. My feeling is that what has been done is water under the bridge, and at this point, we should be striving to constrain Greg, not to oust him.
So Jim, that already happened. At least one of the board meetings.
Excuse me, just a moment here. Just a moment. He's actually talking about floor control, which is something I offered to do at the special meeting. I'm going to ask that you do not interrupt him.
Okay.
I am the chair here. Okay. I control the time. I offer to ensure that everyone is heard and makes good use of their time. Jim, you have the floor.
Yeah. So that's that's one of the things that Ed was proposing. And I have to think of the other one, a couple of other things, but I guess I don't know if I should take my time now or should postpone it until you call me.
Well, let me ask Dror what he had to say there.
I think the problem is that there's a rotation constant.
Oh, we might be having audio
rotation. I'll come back to this, but I'm saying like some of us probably weren't aware of exactly what happened in scenario, but I know Alex Burton and Vlad Zamfir backed up Greg and followed him here and became board members. They were the first to leave, either like leave or not attend any meetings. And then we keep seeing like this kind of rotation of people we think highly of that they come and then at some point they just leave. They might say they don't have time or something, but it's like just a statement sometimes. So for my attendance in the past couple of meetings, Greg was not the moderator, at least in one of them. I don't quite remember the second one. The problem is that these things were tried. Like I also tried a lot of kind of like suggesting a lot of solutions in a way that people here talking about. Greg, and I believe Greg when he said, "Hey, I don't want to be the president," or "Show me the money, I'll step down," stuff like that. Every time that we kind of brought a solution, somehow things changed and he took a different approach. And we also see it now in the capital raise. There were, like also in November, some people in the community offered capital and they were shut down because one of the Greg says I'm lying, but I was involved and I've seen the conversation. So he has a lot of power because he has the stage. He claims a lot of things. Recently, he claimed that Barry is the only board member that thinks that the Spain deal was not in the approved by the board. I was in those meetings. I thought I missed that meeting or something because I don't remember anything. But yeah, so he just put the hit on Barry. I don't think this is fair. The question is like, so there have been a lot of tests, in my opinion, that should have kind of, a lot of things happened that the board should have just make Greg step down as president. And I'm not saying kick him out from RChain, of course not, but it's a clear problem, but they avoided to do it. So I just don't see how the board will end up taking actions that will solve the problem, because these things repeat themselves. Like, I will probably leave and someone else new will come and he will have the same learning experience until he would leave and someone else comes. That's how I feel. I will probably add some things in the GitHub issue as well. Sorry for interrupting, Jim. I didn't realize the format. But I'm speaking. I'm only speaking because I wish someone else told me the things he knew when I was in the community for over a year now. A lot of people knew, and I only started to hear only behind closed doors what really is happening. And I don't think this is fair. I don't think that's what the co-op is set up to do. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. You mentioned things that may or may not have been decided at the April 2 board meeting. The things that were decided at the April 2 board meeting are a matter of record. There were no decisions. So
no, but also nothing else, kind of nothing even about Spain, as far as I remember, and I'm pretty sure everyone else has even been mentioned. There were other kind of countries mentioned, but also at no point there was a concrete deal of like, hey, we're going to exchange X for Y at any point. There was just like, hey, I'm traveling to X, Y, Z to investigate further. Some people might have said no, maybe yes, but in the end, they agreed that Greg should go and investigate because this is important. That's the maximum that happened in the meeting.
Right.
And yeah.
It says today Greg will meet with a group that is interested to blah, 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 blah. That might be the item that's, anyway. Yes, there were no resolutions. There was some information exchange, perhaps.
Yeah, but some other cells, people said it's maybe there's no laws against him conducting those deals. The problem is that previously when we tried to solve the problem that happened with immersion or in other kind of deals, because immersion wasn't the first or last, he said, oh no, everything I do, if it's above 25K, has to go through the board. And Dror is lying. And the fact that, and this has kind of happened a few times that I was accused for lying because he has the reputation and the stage in those meetings. And I kind of feel, now I kind of understand a lot of other people who left, why they left. Because some people will not speak out or share. They're just like, oh, I'm really busy in my other things. And so I'm not going to be around.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Daryl, welcome.
Hello. Hello, Dan. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So, Dan, I don't know whether you remember me, but I met you at the Seattle conference. It would have been spring of 2017, I believe. You showed me an email of Aaron Schwartz. I was blown away. We sat at a table for a while. We had a discussion.
Oh, right. Yes.
So I'd just like to thank you for this forum, by the way. This is amazing because there's so many people here that I would love to meet who I've seen on the Discord channel. And I know your names. I know kind of your perspectives, but I haven't met you yet. I've been around a long time. Ready to see some elders in the community, Jim and Ed in particular. So I was involved with Scenario because I wanted to find an open source social network for a music blockchain initiative. I guess at that time it wasn't a blockchain initiative, but a music initiative that I wanted to build. So I come to this space as someone who's involved with the music industry. I was hired by Resonate and worked for Resonate during the months that it was funded, from March to September 2018. And so I witnessed the kind of events that occurred that involved the breakdown of communication between Peter at Resonate and Greg. I can concur with what Dror had to say about the perspective of who is telling the truth and who isn't, in regards to conversations between on Resonate and Greg. Basically, I will cut to the chase. I think that what has to happen is we need to find a new position for Greg. It's a very delicate dance. I've known Greg now for a few years. I have a massive respect and love for Greg. I think I kind of have a deep understanding of his passion for what role music is supposed to play, and the role that music has played as a catalyst for other technologies. I share that perspective. However, I am greatly frustrated by how he has attempted to implement that. I have a lot to say about RSong. I've been on the RSong team. I need to, I don't think this is the right opportunity for me to kind of get into detail about that. So again, I'm going to cut straight to the chase. So I think what has to happen is we need to be able to communicate to Greg that he needs to find a new position for himself at RChain. We need to utilize Greg's greatest strengths and allow him freedom to explore those. I guess I'll also add a little bit of his history here in that I got involved with Ethereum in the early days. I'm from Toronto. I met Vitalik during that time, and I told him about Scenario and Greg at that time, and they later met. I don't know whether I was the instigator of that or not, but during that, Greg also met a friend of mine named Bob Somerville, who is the current president of Ethereum Classic Co-op here in Canada. And Bob Somerville had a very short message. I asked him about what he felt about Greg. And he said, Greg Meredith, mathematical genius, extremely difficult to work with. And I think that that really sums it up. It will be very difficult for us to be able to convince Greg to find himself a new position at RChain. What we have to do is we have to find something that will be acceptable for his principles and vision of what he sees RChain, where he sees RChain going. It will be a very tender, delicate tightrope walk. I am very happy to be involved in that because I do think I can provide a unique perspective due to my relationship with Greg. And I offer my services, and I just thank you again, Dan, for calling this meeting and opening up your office.
All right. Great to hear from you again.
I would just like to add one other thing, and that is I also have a very unique perspective in the whole immersion deal and what went down. And I think I have a good understanding of why Greg went away from the idea of keeping things open and adopting a closed piece of technology that could be used. At the time, he had a belief that immersion and resonate were going to create something really, really special and really unique that would bring a lot of traffic to RChain. I think that he was mistaken. I think that his vision, what he saw with immersion and their technology has, and to this day still does, cloud his perspective on what we could really do. I think immersion, in hindsight, was a huge mistake. And I agree that that immersion needs to be severed. At the very least, the way immersion has been introduced into RChain needs to be severed. And I have a lot to say about that. There are other technologies that bring to the perspective that immersion isn't as unique as Greg believes it is. And I think that this could potentially be the bridge to how we can convince Greg to find himself a new position at RChain that's acceptable for him. So anyways, I'll stop now because I have so much more to say about it, but I'll just stop.
This is Jacob speaking, and I hope I'm not interrupting anybody. I just wanted to thank Daryl for putting it all so very eloquently, and let everybody know that I'm hopping off the call to eat breakfast, and have a great day.
All right. Thanks for joining.
You're very welcome.
All right. Thanks, Daryl. The next on my list is a person who calls himself Chang. Okay, I don't gather Chang wants to offer anything just now. CG? All right, Attic B?
Hey, Dan, this is Attic B. Yeah,
Hi.
so in my understanding, in the current stage, we only have like 1 month runway left, right? And there might be potential capitals coming to the corp. But my opinion is, in order for the corp to survive, there's a couple of things we should be, we should do. One good approach is we set up a SPV, a special entity, and this entity is only for the R&D purpose. So we can move the dev team there, and all the capitals will be allocated to the SPV. So if we can do that way, then even there's mismanagement in a corp level, we still can ensure the dev still goes on. Right, and in terms of the open source, someone mentioned that someone mentioned that we can do some open source project, but I think it would disturb the dev process, right? And the dev team, they have their job. They need money to support their family, and if we go that approach, it slow everything down, and that's the last thing we should do. Right, that's my point.
I just wanted to note that I noted in the April 2 board minutes, it says Greg reports that we have just under 1 million in the bank, which covers the company's burn rate through the end of May, which is consistent with what you said. I think there might be some other information on that, but that much is a matter of record.
Can I chime in with a comment?
Yes.
Yeah. So at Attic B, I think that SPV idea is a very interesting idea, and the intention to special purpose vehicle. a
Thank you.
legal construct. There's many that desired that the platform keep getting funded as one of the most important objectives in what we're considering. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but when an employee or contractor realizes they may not have more than a month of employment left, they start looking or start thinking elsewhere. And I can tell you this is a concern with some of the dev team now. So it's really critical that we provide them some, if we can, provide them some assurance that the project, the development will continue. I don't know how to do that right now, but the SPV might be part of that solution. So thanks for that.
All right. I'm available to continue for, I guess we lost some people at the top of the hour, which is natural. I wish I had said something at about T-10. Anyway, Jim Whites-Carver, do you want the floor, or did I?
If anyone has to leave that wants to take the floor, speak up now. All right. I think a lot of the things that I wanted to say have already been said. I've said some of them before. With respect, to thank Garrel for coming in on the RSong and immersion deal. I've been generally supportive of that, and that I believe, we should have a flagship app, and we have one close to being ready to come out of the can, and I don't see any alternative flagship app being proposed or developed. It seems to me it would be a great waste to throw that out at this point. I'm not concerned about the codec being closed source because well, as has been pointed out, is the technology and the framework can be used for other alternatives as well. I don't think there's an open source alternative. There may be competing technologies. I think engaging the mathematics community and the music community is really a brilliant move because so many mathematicians are musicians. And I think that's essential. And I think it's one of the things we lose if we take Greg out of the guidance of the project. His principles and vision, I have not seen in anyone else. So I'd be very, and I think as Dallas said, we really want to get Greg to buy into the reorganization. That our priorities now ought to be fixing the board and the committees. I'm excited to see the engagement of the community in this meeting. Thank you so much, Dan, for doing this. I'm not sure how we can encourage members to be engaged and provide the support and guidance to the board rather than just people bellyaching and, let's say, throw out the management. It's like I just see a great void being created with that approach. What's happened in the past is water under the bridge. We have to ensure that it doesn't happen again. As far as Barcelona goes, okay, there clearly was a protocol in place for private sale that didn't have any requirement to engage the membership in private sale activities. I think that it was our responsibility as the members who are the control, ultimately in control of the co-op, to change these protocols or have some kind of review process, propose some kind of review process. A lot of Greg's philosophy, a lot of criticism against Greg is really what appears to be hypocrisy with his own principles. But it's hard to call him paranoid when he's really being attacked. And I think a lot of the foundation of the attack comes from areas that don't have the goals of the co-op in mind. And going back again, governance conference a few years ago, Greg was saying, well, it's going to take 3 years before the cooperative has the structure and robustness to take over the cooperative, so to speak, to become fully decentralized in terms of our cooperative governance. And this plan, to me, is a very important part of what it means to have a blockchain that's controlled by a cooperative. And if people don't like the idea of having a cooperatively run platform, if they want to change it to something else, they really shouldn't be here. But so I applaud the effort to find something that Greg can buy into, and I also have a personal relationship with Greg, and find him to be generally responsive to my concerns and issues.
Jim?
Yep.
There's an increasingly expressed feeling that this line of discussion is not worth a lot of people's time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, this ITB, can I say something?
Yes.
So I think in the current situation, right? So my plan, to set up a dev-oriented SPV probably will be, a plan with least resistance from the board. Like any others, like to, let's say, to assign a different role to Greg, which I agree. I really want it could happen, but it may be filibustered by the board or delayed, whatever. And so if that cannot happen in a short time, so why not split off those important resources, money and the dev team, and put it in a container, right? And contain all to protect this entity, the dev activities from mismanagement from the board. right? So that's my 2 cents. Maybe people can think about that. And another thing is, in order for the meeting to be fruitful, we need to create some items of actionable items. What should we do, and timeline?
Absolutely. I'm really hoping that people will, for example, I was hoping that some issues would show up right here during this meeting. Here's how it works. Click the button, SPV for dev resources, for example. But I'm not going to do this. I'm the chair. I'm not here to champion a position. Other people need to champion these positions. So you've said it out loud, and this is a recorded session, so it's now on the record. That's useful. But it's a little bit hard to follow up on part of a video. So GitHub issues are particularly useful in my experience. Sometimes Discord chat is a useful way to do things. You might you can make a new server or a small group chat or something like that, and write something down. Yes, I'll say it again here. Clear proposals with backing of members, including officers that participate. It should be useful to start things moving. So do you want to say like where? Okay, you just described an SPV, and suppose somebody else in this meeting is interested in that idea. How should they contact you? How should they collaborate with you?
Hey Dan, sorry, my daughter is coming, so I have to leave.
Okay.
So we can talk offline.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you for organizing this, and have a nice day.
Likewise, thank you for coming.
I will just say that I'm intending to follow up with Attic B and find out more details about the SPV that he was describing. So I'm sure all of us can find each other on Discord.
Okay, great.
Can I request him to talk right now?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't recognize your voice. Say your name, please.
Sorry, Dan. This is Daryl.
Go, Daryl.
So has everyone had a chance to talk now? Have you gone through the whole list?
Yes, everyone has.
Okay. So what I would propose, another kind of item that if we could kind of brainstorm on, would be to kind of clearly define what this new role of Greg's could be. I don't think that it will function for Greg's needs to strictly be the CTO. I think he will want to have more of a role in the management to some degree. So I'm just wondering what ideas people have as to how we could propose a suitable position for him that would help fulfill our needs of avoiding him making the mistakes that have harmed the co-op so much. I think that if we can find a happy place for him to be, that will bring back some of these great people, I think that it will be a win-win for everybody. Essentially, what we need to do is save Greg from himself. And we all, I think, most of us here at least really have a lot of love for Greg. At the very least, I think we had a lot of love for what his mind has brought to us. And we need to make sure that he finds a place where he can feel passion and excitement to continue that contribution. So if we could come up with brainstorm a little bit about what kind of role he would actually play, I think that would really help out a lot right now.
I want to respond to that comment with the suggestion that instead of necessarily identifying who Greg is and knowing we all have our different histories and observations, but try to focus on structure, and what so I could look at some of the same problems that we're addressing as, number one, I observe the problem that at this time, executive functions, which include technical vision, architecture, leadership, communications, financial planning, and procurement, and outreach, are all held under the bylaws and in practice by one individual. And that degree of centralization has put Greg's vision, and I'm identifying him as the founder and chief author of the formal structures which make this whole enterprise interesting. But that centralization, independent of his personality, would be problematic no matter who it was. It's just not a good design. That's why we keep saying centralized computing is what we think the world needs, and that's what inspires us. And that's, again, also what inspires us in the unique characteristics of the formal architecture that we're all engaged in when we're working in Rolang. So I think the case to be made, if one needs to make a case to the particular person that occupies that position at this time, is that since they are also the founder, in order to realize their vision, they need to recognize that there are certain functions that their skill set is not adapted to, and identify those functions and look at where that individual's passions are, which I think is really about the success of the vision, and that there are places where they could go full passion. And this is actually a note I wrote to Greg yesterday morning, but that I keyed off of his, and I'm sorry I'm getting into his personality, so I'm weakening my own argument. I'll just say that I'll make the observation anyway that if you go to his Twitter profile, his 3-word tag is mathematics is an art, which I love and I celebrate in him, and I think he's one of the most formidable mathematical artists at work. But art is about passion. But business controls and good and rational business judgment are not about passion. So you want cold hearts at business. So I think if we can define the functions of business and the attributes that are appropriate to business, it's a natural sort that's not where this particular individual would seek to reside. And by residing in that place, this particular individual is putting his whole effort at risk. So I think it's an ultimate win, both as a design principle and in that particular individual's case, but also, for all of us, because that no individual is alone. It's all about the relationships and the structures and the expressions of those structures that organize us. So that's my comment on that, how we could proceed.
Yeah, Rich, I really appreciate everything you just said, and I have the same sentiments. There's some practicalities about how to do this quickly. I believe that Greg has a tremendous amount of inspiration, even in business, and the co-op would actually do best if that voice can continue. However, as input to business strategy, financial strategy, partnership strategy, community expansion, and so forth, he has some very insightful and wonderful ideas there. And so I think a practical way for that to continue and for him to have some checks and balances around those, the organization have some checks and balances around those processes, can be accomplished in the short term by appointing another chairman to the board and by passing some board resolutions to constrain his authority on certain limits of various types. It'll be very hard for the membership to make those things happen quickly. But what there could be in order to get this conversation going more quickly, the membership could request that the board, meaning the rest of the board, engage with the membership on this discussion.
Thanks. One of the very tricky things about this is choosing a time. That the relationship there is getting the rest of the board involved in this special meeting. I certainly hope that the majority of the board will attend the majority of the sessions. At the same time, I do plan to be a little bit selfish. I'm going to choose times that I'm available. I'm going to do a doodle poll, and there are going to be certain parties that I consider critical resources. And, you know, based on, and I will choose a time. Now, the bylaws say that the board or the secretary chooses the time or something, so I'll have to get the board to endorse my choice. Or I'll just hold a meeting and it won't be an official special meeting or whatever. But I think there's about 70 people who want the meeting to happen.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is excellent, Dan. But I think the best that you can hope for in terms of the output with respect to the board and officers is a non-binding resolution, so, and of course, well articulated, supported, and so forth. But since if you believe that as well, then conducting a non-binding resolution, whether it's an official special meeting or not, I don't know that it will carry different weight with the board. They're going to look at the rationality of that resolution. Do you, Dan, or others here think that more than a non-binding resolution can come out of this meeting?
I'd rather not spend this time on that. I concur that I hope it doesn't really matter. I want to get lots of express will of the membership, which basically not legally compels the board, but socially compels the board to do things.
I think it would be good if this was done in the context of the governance committee, which is not really official either, but has been endorsed by Greg.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a sec here to look at my calendar. What did I do with my calendar?
Yeah, so I made the suggestion in the chat that we think about this coming Sunday or Monday, which will be just ahead of the scheduled board meeting of the 7th. And I think there's a lot, on the one hand, that seems kind of rushed, but on the other hand, you know, I really encourage everyone to look at Nick's plan. I made a couple suggestions, and I'm sorry, Dan, I'm really bad at multi-screen work. I can't listen and do things on the screen at the same time. So I have some specific suggestions for topics. Basically, bylaw amendments would be one topic, and consideration of Nick's plan or plans like Nick's would be another topic. And the beauty, and I really encourage those that are inclined to look at operations, data models, etc. I don't know how many people went into the spreadsheets, but it's beautiful. He's figured out specific roles. His budget, for one, it's a revenue neutral budget, or it's a revenue positive budget. So he suggests ways that the co-op can make money, and makes money over time. It projects out for 2 years, and it goes down into specific skill sets for full-time employees. I think at one point the team is like 21 people or something like that. So it's a coherent data model that supports the slides and so forth. But what it is as a data model is something that anybody could grab and use as their data for another operational plan going forward 2 years. So anyone that's inclined or has some budgeting skill, everything's there. Nick would be very humble about it and say that it's obviously something he just threw together over a weekend or whatever. But it's good enough to make some good modeling from. So anyway, those are my 2 comments. And I think we can cover a lot of ground with that. And I think probably by the end of the weekend we're going to have our 96 required upvotes.
Yeah, I think that's the only real plan on the table is Rich's plan. I mean, Nick's plan. Am I correct?
Which also, I just have to say, is if anyone wants to consider the current executive's competency in terms of these specific business requirements, the fact that we are operating without a forward-going revenue model other than these cash transactions or these stories about selling off the immersion license at sufficient funds to pay the immersion license, these are not credible, and these are not, and there is no other forward-going plan, and that's a real problem.
All right, I'm writing down things that I hear in the governance channel. Oops. Am I muted? No, okay. I'm writing down things I hear in the governance channel. I wonder if, okay, so May 5 or 6, I will probably not choose a Sunday. May 6th. I promised to give everybody at least 1 week's notice of the time. Well, May 6th is more than 7 days away, right?
Yeah, that would be Monday, Monday after next.
Right. I'm looking at a calendar now. Go ahead.
Well, and I'm thinking, what was your concept with times and time zones and so forth? And did you have a structure in mind?
Yeah, 2 or 3 90-minute Zoom sessions.
So are you up for, so it's basically a collection process less than are you expecting some legislation to come by the end of it, or what's your, you're having these 3 sessions, is it to end up with a set of suggestions?
Yeah, let's see. Share screen. This was some of my early brainstorming. So when and where, 2 to 3 90-minute webinar sessions, day and time to be announced with at least 7 days notice, Zoom plus Discord for polling and voting. A goal would be near real-time note-taking, which I find helps a lot with people that are not, English is not their first language. Separate the sessions by a few days for hallway discussion, vary the times a day for worldwide participation. And then, yeah, at least 48 hours before the final session, have maybe formal proposals in writing. And how formal they can be is, we're discovering that might be an issue.
So are you thinking maybe it would work for this to be kind of an open process of discussions leading to a resolution? I'm trying to marry these theories or these concepts. So if we made Monday, May 6th sort of the endpoint of the process, maybe we can be conducting informally on the way to that with your 48-hour thing, I guess, would be So like next Saturday, specific topics, more or less detailed topics for consideration on Monday. Would that work with your model?
Yeah. So maybe the second session would be Monday?
Oh, I see what you're saying. It wasn't 3 sessions in one day, in one monster day. I see.
No.
It was a series. Okay.
Separate the sessions by days for hallway discussion.
Okay, got you. Okay, why don't you blurt it out what you're thinking might work?
Well, Monday may. Okay, well, I tried to. Shall I do it again?
Maybe I didn't know how to hear it. Sorry.
Okay. Are you seeing the screen just for in case?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So
you're saying a session, or you're saying either the first session is Monday, May 6th, or possibly the second session is Monday, May 6th.
Right.
So we wouldn't resolve. It would be, but we would. I'm kind of May 6th. I'm keying off May 6th because of the board meeting on May 7th.
Correct.
So I don't want to be disrespectful to your vision of the process. If you feel like at midpoint in the process, certain information would be ready to convey to the board meeting. Do you follow me?
Yeah, definitely. I was brainstorming. So let's see. The Saturday before would be the 4th.
We certainly got a good turnout at this hour, and you use the same hour.
Yeah.
What Google says.
Well, we could send a note out to our Asian friends to see what time of day would work for them, say between Sunday evening through to Monday morning, or the reverse, whatever works.
Right. So let's see. There's also the question of intersecting with Greg's calendar. I probably wouldn't want to do that for the Monday, May 6th part. Does that make sense?
No, I'm not sure what you mean by intersecting with his calendar.
Ensuring his participation.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that was kind of related to my question I just typed in the chat. Is would you schedule to sort of maximize the number of Greg and board members as a primary consideration of scheduling this?
Not a mathematical formula, but that was certainly a doodle poll that does that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, your challenge as a facilitator moderator is going to be more depending on who's on that call. I guess that's also true with certain members as well that are more outspoken. I trust your judgment. I'm just curious what your objectives were. So you'd have Greg participate if you can schedule that.
Right.
Cool.
I heard Dan bark pretty formidably earlier in this call, so I think he's able to handle any contender.
That's very uncomfortable, by the way.
You did well.
Yeah.
And no one was offended.
Yeah, but it just, it goes fight or flight. You get adrenaline. You can't think straight for at least 2 minutes.
You did the right thing, Dan. And there'll be more of that in a more heated, passionate discussion. So got to play the role.
Well, I'm hoping I have to do it once early in the meeting, and that's it. You all handed me the chair. I'm using it. Okay.
I think I've got family issues coming up, and I'm going to drop off the call. I'm confident that what remains to be done here can be done online. Sounds like, Dan, you're going to do some magic with calendar time, and I'm going to post some things, and we'll all contribute. We'll all be seeing each other online.
All right, great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Rich.
Welcome. I'm hearing people bring off.
Time for guitar.
Indeed.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'll stay for a couple minutes to hear you strum a bit, but I have to run. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ooh, that's. Huh. Something's off, but I can't tell what. Yeah.
Your B string.
Guitar since I was 13, and I still don't have a good enough ear to tune the damn thing.
The fourth string, it's the B string.
What's that?
It's the fourth string, the B.
That one?
Yeah.
Gosh, it still sounds wrong. I got a tuner somewhere.
It's sounding pretty good.
Say again?
I think it's sounding okay enough.
Okay. Ooh, yeah. What's the song? Oh, well. All right. Oh, let's see. What's the next? Oh no, I can't remember any of the chords. I lose. That's enough. 40 eyeball effect.
I was just getting into it.
All right, hold on. If I have a chord sheet, I can fake it. All right, there it is. There's a secret chord that they play. Really can't find it. Goes like this, the fourth and fifth. All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks so much, Dan. I'd like to request a private call with you one day soon if you have the time. Bye, everybody. Bye, Jim.
Bye-bye.